In most Pokemon games, water types are among the most common type of Pokemon you can find. They also happen to be one of the strongest. This is especially true in Gens 1 through 4, with one very common, very strong Pokemon in particular coming to mind. But when Gen 5 came around, we were given a Pokedex with only brand new Pokemon available before the postgame. Unlike every other region that came before it, Unova doesn't have a mandatory water route that you need to traverse in order to progress through the game. Instead, they opted for big, expensive infrastructure projects funded by the tax dollars of the hardworking citizens of the region. You know, instead of using that same money to instigate forever wars around the world. As a result, there are only 8 available water-type Pokemon lines in Pokemon Black and White, not including the legendary Pokemon Keldeo, 2 of which are final stage evolutions, and 1 is a fossil, meaning it's almost as old as me. Because of their relative scarcity, the only Pokemon I have access to before the first gym is my starter, Luffy. The main problem with this is in Black and White, the first gym leader will always have a type advantage over you. The game is designed to help you overcome that disadvantage by providing you with a monkey of your own. The problem is, there's no scenario in which I'm able to get both the water-type starter and also Panpour, at least not yet. So that means Luffy is going to have to do it all on his own before he can start to assemble a crew. With a level cap of just 14, there isn't exactly some grand strategy I can deploy here in order to deal with the first gym. The best I can do is hope for some good luck. A focus energy will increase Luffy's critical hit chance, and he's going to need to land a few of them in order to win. I also need his Pokemon to spam workups, which he starts to do, and then we get a crit right away. Nice. I thought this was going to take forever, but it looks like everything's going to work out great. Okay, that was a lot of damage, but you got this, Luffy, don't worry. Yeah. That's alright. Attempt 2 will go much better than Attempt 1. Luffy the second is prepared for the challenge. Lillipup, can you, please stop biting my friend? Just go for a workup. No, don't take my Oranberry scraps and heal yourself with it. Well, that one went worse than the first attempt. Clearly when Luffy the second said he was built different, he meant he was a defective product. I'm sure we'll get him next time though. Third time's the charm, right?
2,000 years later.
I begrudgingly march Luffy number 7 to the plank, knowing the only thing that awaits him is the same fate that befell his predecessors, certain death. Still, in the face of death, he has a sort of optimistic spark about him, a twinkle in his eye, something that says this time it's different. He leads off the battle the same way as those that came before him, with a focus energy and a dream. Luffy the 7th doesn't let the failures of his past lives stop him. After a water gun does decent damage, a second water gun gets a crit and takes out the Lillipup. That gives Luffy the 7th a fighting chance against the Pansage, who's already starting to boost its attack with workups. A Vine Whip does exactly 20 damage, but the Oranberry means he can survive at least one more non-critical hit, but none of that matters unless he locks in. While that crit didn't manage to get the KO, it did force him to use a potion, meaning Luffy the 7th can hit another tackle, bringing his Pansage into KO range. All he has to do is avoid a crit, and he does. Finally, after generations of Oshawott falling at the hands of Cilan and his Pansage, Luffy the 7th is able to get us past the first gym. While we may be past the first obstacle, there's still a few roadblocks before we can add any new members to the crew. That starts at the local preschool where Luffy and I are bullied for only having each other and no other friends. These little girls won't let us pass unless we have a double battle, so I have to bend the traditional rules a bit and catch a Lillipup that I'll be using for HMs and spam Odor Salutes until it gets knocked out, essentially leaving Luffy the 7th to 2v1 the pair of Purloins. I don't think HM's death should fully count against me, but he did die, so in the spirit of compromise, I believe I found a pragmatic solution to the issue. Eventually we make it to the next town and it's finally time to add a new member to the crew. On the exterior of Pinwheel Forest we recruit Zoro the Timpole. His brave nature will be needed for the journey ahead, as the upcoming battle with Lenora might prove to be just as difficult as the battles with Cilan. Herdier has Intimidate, so I have to lead with Zoro, who fires off a few growls while being hit by a few leers in retaliation. After getting off 4 growls, Herdier hits a hard takedown that would have taken out Zoro if it had crit. Thanks to an Oranberry, he should be able to survive another non-critical hit, so even with the defense drops, I leave him in to complete his mission of dropping Herdier's attack as much as possible. Another takedown comes in and now Zoro has to tap out. Luffy the 7th brings Herdier into the red and gets the defense drop with Rock Smash, but gets hit with a leer, so on the heel turn I swap in order to get rid of it. When I send Luffy the 7th back in, he avoids a takedown, then he's able to take out Herdier with a few rock smashes. This brings in her Watchog that threatens with a massive damage retaliation, or it can just go for a Leer. Aren't you known for the move retaliation? Whatever. Who am I to look a gift horse in the mouth? Her mistake cost her Watchog his life, and that earns us our 2nd badge. One of the reasons I don't do many Nuzlocks in these games is because those first 2 gym battles are usually very difficult, or borderline impossible depending on the type I choose in a monotype run. Thankfully, we've made it through, so now we should be in the clear, right? Let's see what gym leader is up next. Oh, good, the bug-type gym leader with a razor-leafing grass-type ace Pokemon. Seems like we're going to need some help. Technically, the interior of Pinwheel Forest is, well, still Pinwheel Forest. But due to the limited number of encounters, I'm counting the exterior and the interior as separate areas. After what felt like an eternity, I finally find a Panpour in the shaking grass. Usopp learns the move Scald at level 22, right under the level cap of the next gym. Through a few connections I made here in the city, I'm able to meet up with a smuggler on the docks who snuck in some rare stones, one of which being the water stone that I can use to evolve Usopp into a Simipour. We're going to need all the help we can get in order to deal with Burgh. Zoro uses the same tactics against Whirlipede as he did against Lenora's Herdier, except this time he eventually switches to Supersonic. Lowering its attack then confusing it seems counterintuitive, but the real reason is because I need Usopp to remain as healthy as possible while going for workups. Whirlipede snaps out of confusion and hits a few screeches, which is obviously not ideal, but Usopp is unfazed. He eventually gets off 5 workups, then a Scald one-shots the Whirlipede. In comes the real problem, the Grass-type Leavanny. Thanks to a Dark Gem from Dust Clouds in Wellspring Cave, Usopp can one-shot his biggest threat with a bite. Crisis averted. Last is his Dwebble, but in these games he has the Shell Armor ability instead of Sturdy, so one more Scald earns us the victory. Okay, surely now the onslaught of difficult gym leaders is over. I mean, we're headed into the desert area. We'll finally have a type advantage over some of our opponents. Let's see who's up next. At least we get to recruit a new crew member before marching to the gallows. In Relic Castle, I'm able to get a fossil that I can revive into Sanji the Tortuga. More importantly, Zoro is able to evolve before the level cap of 27 to a part ground-type Palpitoad, giving us our only answer to incoming electric attacks just in time. After spending a little quality time with N, I drag the crew into Elesa's gym and get ready to take on yet another seemingly impossible challenge. I lead with Sanji against her Emolga because while it does know Volt Switch, Sanji should be able to take a hit from it. Instead, she just goes for Pursuit, meaning Sanji can hit a Rock Gem boosted Ancient Power that just misses the range to kill, but gets the Omni boost. We'll take it. This means we get a free turn to hit another while she heals, and Sanji gets a crit and knocks out Emolga. I don't think I could have asked for a better sequence. The spirits of the first 6 Luffys, and HM I guess, are looking down on us and blessing this run. Her second Emolga comes in and this one does Volt Switch, meaning Zebstrika takes a surprisingly decent chunk of damage from Ancient Power. With his newly added ground typing, Zoro is able to completely wall this thing, also trapping it in battle by not being affected by Volt Switch. Elesa uses another Hyper Potion, but Zoro is an impatient guy and knocks it out with a crit from Mudshot. Elesa does eventually retaliate with a crit of her own, but it's way too late for all of that, as Zoro is able to knock out her last Emolga, earning us our 4th badge. After exiting the gym, I accidentally end up in the middle of an awkward argument between Bianca and her dad. Elesa interjects by introducing herself as a gym leader and a model, which doesn't exactly seem relevant, but good for you, I guess. No one's looking at me anymore. I should go before they drag me back into it. In these games, you have a seemingly infinite amount of rival battles between both Cheren and Bianca scattered throughout the game. A lot of them aren't really worth covering, this one included, but I didn't want to continue to skip over them without mentioning at least one. After defeating Cheren, the drawbridge gets lowered, meaning we can find another crew member, Chopper the Ducklet. Between his flying type and Zoro's ground type, we have at least one answer to both of our team's weaknesses. Surely now we're in the clear, right? The next gym leader isn't also going to have super effective moves against us, right? Right. We finally catch a break and have the pendulum swing the other direction. Now we're the ones with the type advantage. Thanks to a held Mystic Water, Usopp is able to one-shot both Krokorok and Excadrill with a Scald, leaving only his Palpitoad, who does manage to survive a Scald but gets burned. After how brutal a few of those gym battles were, it was nice to catch a break. I've got a good feeling about things going forward. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Or cave. Wait, what's the source of that light? Electric spiders? And you're saying I have to go through that cave, the one full of electric types. Wonderful. After finding Skyla at the top of Celestial Tower and evolving Chopper into a Swanna, I head to her gym to take on her flying types. I lead with Sanji against her Swoobat. A priority Aqua Jet ensures that a Crunch on the following turn will get the range to knock it out. That brings in a Swanna of her own. Ancient Power isn't quite a 2-hit KO, so in order to avoid having her use a potion, I have Sanji hit an Aqua Jet. The problem with that is Bubble Beam did a lot more damage than I was expecting. Now I have to switch. This is as good of an opportunity as any to bring Chopper in for some good old-fashioned swan-on-swan violence. An Air Slash wins Chopper the mirror match and Skyla brings out her Unpheasant. Everyone knows that a swan would win a fight against a pheasant, everyone except Skyla, who I thought was supposed to be an expert in this sort of thing. Maybe her flying expertise stops just short of bird knowledge. I defeat Cheren yet again, then, you could have just used the stairs. Alder may be a strange guy, but I'm willing to overlook it for a price, which he happily pays in the form of the HM for Surf. Not only is this an incredible move for our team, but it also lets us encounter the final 3 members of the crew. Nami the Frillish, Robin the Basculin, and Correa the Olomolomolomolamola. In the Pokemon Center in Icarus City, this lovely old lady gives us the TM for Brick Break just in time for the Ice-type gym. In Black and White 2, instead of being a gym leader, Brycen is starring in Pokestar Studios films. I'd like to think the whooping that we put on him here is what led to his demotion. After a few workups, Usopp knocks out Vanillish with a Surf since it insisted on spamming iron defenses. Beartick and Cryogonal both get one-shotted by a Brick Break, earning us the easiest gym badge of the run. It feels nice having some easier battles like this after what we went through to start this attempt, but I know this is just the calm before the storm. Or, well, I know technically it's raining right now, but not that storm. It's a metaphorical storm, not... Anyways. The Shadow Triad shows up, meaning Team Plasma is around here somewhere as well. I find them in Dragon Spiral Tower, then... what do I think? I think that's a fucking legendary Pokemon N. Clearly N doesn't stand for Nuzlocke because he catches it and leaves. This doesn't really seem like my problem if I'm being honest. I think I'll just continue earning gym badges and pretend everything is fine. Unlike Brycen, whose life spirals out of control in a downward trajectory in the sequel series, Iris fails upwards instead, going from being the 8th gym leader to eventually being the champion in spite of the fact that her team of dragons has no chance against Usopp, who knows the move Blizzard. To be fair, her team is a lot stronger there than it is here, so she does put in the work to earn the title, I suppose. Usopp gets yet another clean sweep to earn us the 8th and final badge. That storm I mentioned earlier is approaching quick, as this last battle with Cheren is appropriately the most difficult one. Usopp missing a Blizzard certainly doesn't help, but Unpheasant goes for the 2-turn Razor Wind and he's able to hit the next one before taking any damage. In comes the problem, Superior. This thing is fast, bulky, and has super effective Leaf Blade that would hit everyone on the team for a ton of damage. No one can survive a crit, not even Chopper in spite of the flying typing. Usopp manages to hang on at just 16 HP before a Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics takes out his snake in one hit. That Blizzard miss could have been a disaster. Clearly Usopp needed almost every point of health he has to his name in order to survive. Fortunately, Liepard doesn't have Pursuit, so I can get Usopp to safety and let Zoro handle things with a couple of Drain Punches. Cheren then sends in his own Simipour, but he is nothing compared to the legendary Captain Usopp. I was hoping he'd attack Luffy the 7th, but he just hits a few Leers, meaning Revenge doesn't get to double its power and forces me to swap into Sanji, who gets nailed by a Scald and burned. Okay, maybe your Simipour is a little bit more like Usopp than I originally cared to admit. I send in Nami on another Scald and she gets crit. Alright, I'm sorry, you're every bit as powerful, now please stop. Nami is able to recover, and thanks to her excellent special bulk, she can safely stay in and hit a few Shadow Balls to end the battle. Prior to this fight, Cheren's starter wasn't really causing us issues, but this one he outsped, which made it a lot more dangerous, and was actually worth covering. As a reward for defeating him, he heals our Pokemon, and Bianca also has a present for us. Some Max Revives. Very helpful in a Hardcore Nuzlocke. Thank you. With the badges acquired and the onslaught of rival battles finally complete, we're ready to head to the Elite Four. I start in order by taking on Shauntal first. Nami is able to take out the bulky Kofagrigus with a Ghost Gem boosted Shadow Ball. This brings in Jellicent for the mirror match. A Shadow Ball is going to be a 2-hit KO, but a Curse Body activation takes that plan off the table. Nami can survive a crit if she's at full health, so I try to wait out Curse Body with recovers, but the next Shadow Ball gets a special defense drop. Then Shauntal gets a taste of her own medicine with a Curse Body activation that disables her Shadow Ball too. I still want to get rid of the special defense drop, so I have Chopper make a quick appearance before Nami gets back out there to finish the job. This brings in Chandelure, who's too bulky to be one-shot and hits like a truck with Shadow Ball. Luffy number 7 is durable enough to survive even if he got crit, then he can outspeed and get the KO with a Surf. Last is her easiest Pokemon, the part ground-type Golurk, who also gets submerged by a Surf. Staying in the proper order, I head up the Spiral Escalator to take on Grimsley next. Chopper can take out the Scrafty with a Flying Gem boosted Air Slash, then chain a KO onto the Crocodile with a Surf. Liepard comes in and does more damage to itself than to Sanji with a Fake Out thanks to his Rocky Helmet. A Night Slash does get a crit, but Sanji handles it like a pro and takes it out with a few Aqua Jets. Last is his Bisharp. I know Sanji can survive a crit from Night Slash, so I have him go for a Dig, which doesn't quite do enough damage to force out a heal. He's now in range of a crit, so I send in Luffy number 7, who gets crit. Good thing I switched. He's able to outspeed and get the KO with the Surf, earning us our second relatively easy victory in a row. Next up is Caitlyn and her Psychic types. A Ghost Gem boosted Shadow Ball from Nami scores her another knockout as Reuniclus goes down, bringing in Gothitelle. Because of the Calm Mind, not only is she now not in range of a guaranteed 2-hit KO, but she hits hard with a Thunderbolt. Nami gets a clutch special defense drop to offset the earlier boost. Then Caitlyn and I have an unofficial handshake deal to both heal at the same time. The truce ends quickly though as Gothitelle hits another Thunderbolt that absolutely would have gotten a KO if it crit. Not only did she not crit, but she also activated Nami's Curse Body ability to disable her dangerous Thunderbolts entirely. Still, she's too strong, so I get Nami to safety now that I know Luffy number 7 can't be hit by a Thunderbolt, but he can be hit hard by a Psychic that also would have gotten a KO with a crit. I wish I had better options available, but there really wasn't much I could do other than hope to avoid some bad luck. Sometimes you just have to send it and hope it works out. Speaking of, it's time to risk yet another crit. And we're safe, and get another Curse Body activation. Luffy number 7 truly blessed this run with his positive vibes. Well, sorta. Nami can't handle the Shadow Balls, so I send in Sanji, whose Dark Gem boosted Crunch does just enough damage to ensure the next one will get a KO onto Musharna. All that leaves is her Sigilith. Zoro can tank 2 Psychics while avoiding yet another crit, then do some damage with a Scald which sets up Usopp for success, as he's the only one that can outspeed this thing and take it out with a Shadow Claw. I really hate having to risk that many critical hits, or any for that matter, but I didn't really have a lot of other choices I could make. Last up is Marshal. Zoro sets up the rain in order to guarantee a 2-hit KO with Surf on the throw. Sokk has the Sturdy ability and is going to outspeed, so I have Zoro hit a Drain Punch before finally bringing in Chopper. He's able to outspeed and take out Sokk with an Air Slash. Conkeldurr comes in and thanks to its poor special defense, Chopper is able to get the quick KO with an Air Slash. All that leaves is his Mienshao. All Chopper has to do is outspeed and hit an Air Slash. Well, that's depressing. That was the first death of attempt 7, all because of a miss on a 95% accuracy move. I suppose I deserved that after dodging all those crits against Caitlyn, but Chopper? Chopper didn't deserve that. Usopp is able to avenge our fallen friend and defeat Marshal's final Pokemon. Normally this would mean we'd only have a crew of 5 heading into the champion, but these games are pretty unique. Instead of fighting Alder, N beats us to it, and then a gigantic castle appears and N runs upstairs. Because we can access one of the PCs in his house, I can replace Chopper with Correa, giving us a full crew again. The unfortunate part about these games for Nuzlocking in particular is that it is mandatory to try and catch the legendary Pokemon, meaning that I have to Master Ball Zekrom. Thankfully it doesn't force me to add it to my party, but N doesn't play by Hardcore Nuzlocke rules. He plays by his own rules, ones that allow him to lead with his Reshiram. Fortunately it's a part Fire type, meaning Zoro's Bulldoze does decent damage and drops its speed. Zoro is able to take out his legendary Pokemon, but he's also struggling a bit after being Hyper Beamed by a literal dragon. So I bring in Correa, who also gets Hyper Beamed. This is great because it allows her to go for a wish without being hit. Then Zoro can come in on a Thunderbolt safely and get healed up. A few Bulldozes were enough to take out a legendary Pokemon, so obviously this hunk of bolts doesn't stand a chance. Vanillix comes in, so I bring back Correa on a Blizzard. After a wish, I send in Luffy number 7, who's brought back to full thanks to the Team Doctor. A Revenge doesn't quite get the KO, but a crit Surf certainly does. Zoroark foolishly hits Luffy number 7, then gets pummeled by a double-powered Revenge on the crackback. Zoro comes in to handle the Caracosta with a couple of Drain Punches and a Surf, leaving N with only his Archeops. This thing may be weak to water moves, but it's fast and it hits like a truck. Sanji is the only one that can handle it. A Rocky Helmet ensures that a priority Aqua Jet will put it into Defeatus before it gets to attack again, meaning the ensuing Stone Edge does basically nothing. One more Aqua Jet takes it out and earns us what appears to be the win over the champion. That is, until Ghetsis shows up. Unfortunately, I don't get to rearrange the team order before being thrust into battle again, and I don't get to add any held items, meaning when Correa is hit with a Toxic on the switch-in, her fate is sealed. While I can't save her from her fate, I can delay the inevitable. She goes for a wish before being brought to safety in exchange for Nami, who gets hit with a Shadow Ball but healed back to full immediately. Sadly, Nami also gets poisoned by Toxic. Ghetsis is truly evil. She takes out the Kofagrigus and is now staring down a Wild Charge from an Afro Buffalo. Thankfully, Zoro is still here to save the day. Unfortunately, he's faster, meaning a Drain Punch at full HP comes in before he gets blasted with a Head Smash that does a ton of damage. Another Drain Punch comes in, and Buffalant survives with a sliver of health. He then kamikazes himself with another Head Smash, taking out Zoro in the process. I have to send someone out blind, so I send in Sanji, but Ghetsis proceeds to mock us by sending in his Seismitoad. The man is just the worst. I send in Correa on an Earthquake and have her get off another wish, and while the toxic damage is going to start adding up, I need to try and stall as much as possible, which is hard to do when she gets crit by an Earthquake. Well, it's hard to complain about that since we had to dodge a bunch of crits earlier, but I sure would like to. Luffy number 7 can come in, and thanks to the wish Correa made with her dying breath, he's able to stay at full health while getting a revenge kill onto Seismitoad. Now we don't have an answer for Electros, so I'm gonna need Luffy number 7 to lock in. He avoids the crit at the most important moment and gets the KO with a Surf. Ghetsis brings in his Hydreigon, and sadly, I think this might be the end for our captain. I can't switch anyone in on this thing if I don't know what move it's going for, so I have Luffy number 7 fire off one final Aqua Jet, and his dumb dragon misses a Focus Blast. Maybe Luffy number 7 is built different after all. I decide to take my chances in hopes that he's going for another one and swap into Nami, but he switched to a Dragon Pulse, meaning that while I just spared Luffy's life, I inadvertently ended Nami's. Sanji, heartbroken by the loss, comes in and does a decent chunk of damage before meeting a similar fate. It's officially a massacre. All that remains are Usopp and Luffy. I can't have Usopp miss a blizzard, so that damage by Sanji was critical. Usopp hangs on after a Dragon Pulse, and misses the range with Brick Break. That is brutal. Usopp doesn't have any priority moves, so on the next turn, he goes down to a Surf. We're down to our last crew member, and our first one. Luffy number 7 comes back in and takes down his dragon with an Aqua Jet. The problem is, he still has a Pokemon. The only move I can justify using has negative priority, meaning Luffy number 7 is at the mercy of his Bisharp, who goes for a Metal Burst. A Revenge takes it down to the red, but one more Aqua Jet takes it out and earns us the win. That was a pretty crazy run, down to my last Pokemon on a third of its health. I usually don't do mono-type Nuzlocks of these games because of the difficulty of accessing different types of Pokemon early enough into the playthroughs, and because getting through the first gym with the starter is clearly tedious at best, and probably insane to try. But I'm glad I did, because this was pretty fun. Still, I think I'll be sticking to the sequels more often than not. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, you know the deal. It's about time for me to head out. Thanks for watching, and I'll smell you later.